Hello all, welcome to the video on 8051 interfacing. In this particular video, we will be concentrating on interfacing a DC motor to 8051. Here, DC motor is used to act as an output device. However, you can use a DC motor and interface or program microcontroller to count the number of rotations RPMs on a DC motor. Then you are using the DC motor as an input to count the number of rotations to the circuit. Basically, here I am concentrating on using DC motor as an output device interfacing to a microcontroller. So, basically a DC motor will rotate both clockwise and anti-clockwise, and you can even control the speed of a DC motor. Both can be done in the using a microcontroller. Whenever I have a motor, I am supplying a voltage like this. I am writing a rough sketch. My motor will rotate in clockwise direction. If at the same time to the same motor I connect a power supply like this, the motor will rotate in anti-clockwise direction. So, by changing the polarity of the motor, you can change power supply, you can change the direction of rotation of a motor. This is the simplest way of direction control. So, 0 and 5, if you give the power supply, the motor rotates with clockwise, and if you give the power supply 5 and 0, then the motor rotates in anti-clockwise direction. Just by changing the polarity of the supply, the direction of DC motor can be controlled. Next, we have different techniques of controlling the DC motors working. Okay. So, first technique is a bidirectional control or using the H bridge, and very prominently used, very widely used technique for DC motor control is a PWM technique. We will see both of these techniques in this particular video. Let me take you to the illustration. Please see, I am talking about the direction control of a DC motor. As I have already told you, a DC motor connected to positive and negative of supply like this, then motor rotates in the clockwise direction. Motor rotates in clockwise direction. If I try to interchange the polarity, exchange the polarity. So, earlier it was positive, here I am making negative. Earlier it was negative, here I am trying to make it as positive. The direction of motor is reversed. So, the motor will rotate in anti-clockwise direction, or we can simply call it as counterclockwise direction. This is the way of controlling the motor direction. Now, let us see the bidirectional control of a DC motor. Bidirectional control of a DC motor is controlling the DC motor using a simple H bridge switches. So, you can see here a motor is connected using a circuit with 4 switches: switch 1, switch 2, switch 3 and 4. If you want the motor to rotate in clockwise direction or an anti-clockwise direction, you are supposed to give a closed loop path for the current to flow through. Correct? So, if you see this example, none of the switch is closed. None of the switch is closed. That means the motor is off. The motor is not even rotating. The motor is off condition. Motor is not rotating. Now, what will I do? I will try to make this switch closed. I will come from positive, close this. Current flows through the motor and flows to ground. What am I making? Switch 1 and switch 4 I am closing, providing a closed loop path for the current to flow through the motor and towards the ground potential. So, here the motor rotates in clockwise direction. Now let us change the polarity now, or let us change the direction now. Instead of switch 1 and 4, I'll try to close switch 2 and 3. So I will make the current flow like this towards ground. Now you can see the direction of current. It is exactly opposite to the previous case, switch 2 and 3 being closed. So the direction of motor rotation will also parallelly change. The motor will start rotating in anti-clockwise direction. This is the process of bidirectional control of a DC motor. This process I am just summarizing here in the form of a table. Let's see the table. So for motor operation, if you want the motor to be off, I am keeping all the switch open. All the switches are open. If I want to rotate the motor in clockwise direction, okay, coil switch 1 and 4 were closed, rest 2 were open, so the current would flow into the motor in this direction, rotating the motor in clockwise direction. Similarly, if you want to rotate the motor in anti-clockwise direction, switch 2 and 3 to be closed. As discussed already, the current will flow in this direction through the motor. Current direction is reversed, hence the motor direction will also be reversed. What happens if I try to close both the switches? Then the current from both the switches will flow. Try to flow in an opposite direction to one another with equal magnitude. So this operation is not allowed because it might be an harmful process for the motor itself. So this is a restricted operation, or it is an invalid operation. So if you want to write a program for this, okay, you can see here, okay, I am connecting 4 switches to 4 ports of port 1, 4 pins of port 1. First, I am making all these switches off. So motor will also be off in this case. Now let us rotate the motor in a particular direction. I am assuming the motor will start with clockwise direction. So what should I do? I should switch on switch 1 and switch 4. So you can see I am setting those 2 bits and rest of the bits are zeros. Hence motor rotates in a clockwise direction. If you want to rotate this motor in anti-clockwise direction, I should write 1 to switch 2 and 3. So switch 2 and 3 are written with 1s. Rest of the switches are off. So I am writing 0 to them. So the motor will rotate in anti-clockwise direction. Hope the bidirectional control is clear. Moving ahead, let us see about the PWM control of a motor. Pulse width modulation control. PWM control is the easiest and well established, well used process of controlling any motor. PWM circuitries are majority of the time embedded into the recent microcontrollers. If not, the circuit is available in the market. So circuit which microcontroller which already has a PWM embedded is an advantage, and such kind of a circuits microcontrollers are called as motor control microcontrollers. Okay, so here basically the PWM is the width of the pulse modulated we are controlling in terms of load, voltage and current. All 3 parameters of current or motor are considered here to do an operation. You can see here I am controlling 3 parameters through L293. So this basically controls the direction of the motor with the help of D1, D2, D3, D4. These diodes are kept on for a particular period of time, and we are using a switch, okay, to control whether the motor is rotating in clockwise or an anti-clockwise direction. Hope you people have understood this particular video. For more clarification and other topics, please subscribe and use the videos, use the knowledge that is being shared to you all. Thank you.